Wow. A sunrise? You ever see a sunrise? You ever go to Masada, like for sunrise? It's stunning, gorgeous, beautiful. It's so inspiring when you see the sun breaking through the horizon and emerging. It's beautiful, stunning. But who says that that's not a miracle? Well, it's because, Rabbi, just like you said earlier, it's nature. Nature is a thing, the frequency, and the more frequent it is. But at its core, the process, why we have to ask ourselves, why does it work like that? Why does the seed decompose? And who says that a body, just because you and I have not seen a body rise out of the earth, doesn't mean that it's not nature or miracle? I don't know how to, for me, they're really one and the same. There is no versus. The difference is that the miracle is something that happens not so often, it's slower. You know that the earth spins around. You ever spin a dreidel? So at some point when the dreidel slows down, it wobbles, right? Do you know that the earth also wobbles? Every 26,000 years, the earth wobbles a little bit. This is why the earth is spinning on an axis, right? The earth is not spinning straight like a ball. It's on an angle, 23 degrees, on a 23 degree angle. It's not straight, right? Now, because it wobbles, right? Every so often, we know that the North Star is north. It's not really true north, Polaris, that star. Every couple of thousand years, it adjusts a little bit. And there's going to be a time where our North Star won't even be in the north anymore because the earth is wobbling. And this explains also why all the zodiacs are wrong, because the whole zodiac system was based on the system that was designed 2,500 years ago by the Greeks. And if you're trying to understand your zodiac is probably a month and a half ahead of what you think it is right now. So the whole system is broken because things change. Now, I'm sharing this because it's happening so slow over such a long period of time that it sounds crazy. But when the Greeks looked up in the sky, the stars they saw were unique, very different than the stars that we see. And that when Abraham looked at the sky and saw stars, the stars he saw was vastly different than what we see. And we think that, well, the nature of the world is set because of our own unique experiences in time. I've been alive for X amount of years, which is a drop in the bucket. If from this, my left hand to my right hand was a timeline, right? Right now on this timeline, you know where we would be? We would be like a little speck of like the tip of my nail, relative to all the time that happened before us. We're nothing. It's like where we are right now is like a speck of dust relative to the rest of time. We have no concept of what was before. And who says that reality didn't operate differently before? Who says that there wasn't a time in history where vinegar did not burn? Maybe it did burn. Maybe it had different properties. We don't know. We don't know. We're making assumptions, and this is the mistake that scientists make. Scientists make assumptions that the universe, the world itself, was exactly the same today as it was 5,000 years ago. And therefore, some of the arguments against carbon dating, well, the world we know is 4.3 billion years old. And the argument to that is, well, who says that carbon, right, is emitting the same constant that has been 5,000 years ago as today? We have no idea. Maybe something happened and it changed, and that's just been the last, 10,000 years ago, it behaved differently. We have no idea. Maybe it was moving faster or lower. Who says the decay is the same decay? And the answer is, we don't know. All we're doing is using the current measurements based on how it decays today and assuming that it's been exactly the same forever. But we have no idea. We don't know. We don't know what the nature of things were before, right? The mistake that we make is like this. Look at Rashi. This is Rashi over here is the same Rashi that in Yosef is sold as a slave, and he ends up in prison in Egypt. And the Sar Mashkim, he asks him to please make mention to Paro to save me, right? He's doing his ishtadlut, okay? And he says, right? And the chief of the butler did not remember him. And on that day, Bishkachehu, he forgot him. And afterwards, because Joseph relied on him to remember him, he was compelled to be confined for 2 years. And we say, praiseworthy, right, is the one who did not turn to haughtiness, and he did not turn to the Egyptians, who are called Rahab Haughty. Meaning, if Yosef would allow the natural process to take place, he would have been out of jail 2 years earlier. But he believed that his own intervention would make things faster. But that's not the way it worked. The way it worked was uniquely different. There's a process in life that's taking place. And every step of that process is miraculous. Every step of it is designed to ensure that you are able to get to wherever it is you're going. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do ishtalut. But Yosef was at a higher level than that. We say, V'achesed Hashem me'olam v'ad olam, al yire'ah, v'tzidkato l'vnei banim. The Lord's love, eternal love, is forever. So it's only to those who fear Him, and His beneficence for His children's children. Now, what David HaMelech is saying over here is that we need to learn to trust the system. Rabbi, I need a miracle. Rabbi, I played the stock market and I should have made this amount of money, or I didn't play the stock market and I was being, careful and I only bought real estate, and everyone knows that real estate appreciates X amount of money. But the world's changing and we can't use past performance to go ahead and describe future results. And things are always, the two top asset classes over the last 10, 20 years have been? Not real estate. Ready? Farmland and art. Had you bought farmland and art over the last 10 years ago, you would have made more money than anything in the stock market. Outperforming all assets. Who would have known? Right? This is why Bill Gates is the largest privately held farm owner in America. Bill Gates owns more farmland in America than anyone else. He's the largest privately held farm owner in America. Why? Because he has billions of dollars.
He knew where to invest his money.
He knew where to invest his money. He saw that as an investment that's going to outperform every other asset class, because at the end of the day, we all need to eat.
Yeah.
Now, who says how much we need to eat? Who says that I need to eat as much as I eat to stay alive? Who says that I need the things that we take for granted, all the things that we have? Who says I need all of that? Who says it works that way? In the Midbar, it says that the Jewish people got man, and every day enough man fell to feed the Jewish people for 2,000 years. And the way it worked is that you couldn't keep it in a jar, because if you did, it melted away every morning. Why? To teach you bitachon, to trust, but to also teach you that Hashem has shefa. He has infinite amount of bounty to give to you. And you think that it's koch v'yotze miyadi, that my strength is where I get the results. And God is saying doesn't work that way. That's not natural. That everything that we have, our spouses, our children, our homes, our reality, our work is a miracle. There's nothing that's natural about your reality. Right? We say this every single day in the Siddur. Look at the next source. Right? We say this before the Shema. Le'el Baruch ni'imot yitenu, right? Blessed are God, God is pleasant, the Melech HaChai, eternal King, Zmir Yomer, V'tishbachot Yashmiu. We sing all these praises from Kihu Levado, Marom HaKadosh. He is the holy, exalted one. Po'el Gvurot, V'aseh Chadashot. He is the one who has his mighty deeds, and he does all these new things. Baal Nechamot, the master of wars, the Rebbe Tzedakot. He sows justice into the world. Matzmiach Yeshuot. He plants salvation. It's interesting. Matzmiach Yeshuot. He's planting it, right? He's not Baal Yeshuot. Borer Ufaot, he's the one that sparks healing. Norat Hilot, Adon Niflaot. He is the master of the wonders. This is the line I'm looking for. Ready? Hamichadesh betuvo, b'chol yom ta'amid ma'aseh bereshit. He renews in his goodness, b'chol yom, every day, tamid, constantly, ma'aseh bereshit. Well, what does that mean? Didn't God create the world already? So you have this, stick, okay? If I drop it, right, what happens? You say, well, Rabbi, you know what's happening. Gravity's happening. And the object is the same object it was over here and over here. Like, I drop it, it's the same object. All that's happening is that it's moving downward. But that's not what this pasuk is saying. This pasuk is saying that at every moment that this thing is moving, God is recreating it, like a flip book. Those cartoon books, you're flipping the pages, and it's animating. Each page is a different step in the movement of the animation. That is the world that you and I live in. Every moment, God is drawing another picture of the page and is animating us that way. Every moment, the reason why you're here is because God is thinking about you. And that's why you're able to do the things that you do. There is no such thing as nature. We confuse the natural and the miracle. But in reality, every moment is miraculous. Every moment. Every second of your life. You writing right now in your notes is a miracle.
Writing it on my
It's okay, you don't have it. Totally fine. When you walk outside and you see the trees, the leaves turning, do you see God? I do. I do. I see it everywhere I walk. I want you to know. The Rambam says, the Rambam says, the Rambam Nachmanides says, that if you want to see God, all you got to do is look at the world. I remember reading this. It was a Friday night. I used to live in Brooklyn. And I'm like, what is he talking about? I open my window and I don't see God. And then I realized why I don't see God. It's harder to see God in an environment that has been designed by man. I can't see God in the concrete buildings because a guy put it there. I grew up in a block that didn't have trees, right? When you live in Jerusalem, you live in Denver, Colorado, where you see the mountains, it's much easier to see God. You see a beautiful landscape, you see the horizon, you see nature, you feel this deep connection to Borei Olam. Because you understand there's something bigger at play here. But when you live in a concrete jungle like New York, I'll never forget when Google Earth first came out, the app. I was in Cleveland, Ohio, where my in-laws lived at the time. This is 2003, 2004. And I downloaded the app. My kids come over here, like my my boys. I'm like, I want to show you this. And we go to Google Earth, and you see the Earth spinning there. And like, watch this. And I type in our address in Cleveland. And the Earth, spins and it zooms into where we were in Solon, Ohio. And as it's zooming in, it's getting green and beautiful and lush. And you see like the streets and the blocks and the houses, and it's just mind-boggling that there's so much to the planet. And here you are. This is the area we're in right now. And they're like, okay, Abba, type in our address. So I type in our address. It was Brooklyn. I put in my address, and all of a sudden it pans out and it spins over to the right. It's going east. And as we keep moving east, the color green moves from like a dark, lush green to a light green to a brown to a gray. And you literally saw the life from the earth being sucked out of that movement, moving from west to east. And it dawned upon me again, this is like a continuation of that same thought. Like, we live in an environment where it's harder to see God. I get why New Yorkers are so lost. I get it. It's really hard here to see it. You can't see it here. On the West Coast, it's so much easier to find God because you just look at the Pacific is so dramatic and so beautiful. Everything about it is gorgeous. It makes you feel alive. When you feel that connection to nature, you're connecting to God ultimately. But the mistake that we make is, well, that the ocean should be there because this is what happens, and that even the building on some level shouldn't really be there at all. This is the difference between man and God, okay? Man builds an object. He builds a house. How does he build a house? He has to go out to the forest. He's got to cut down the trees, okay? He's got to arrange the trees. He's got to, clean off the bark. He's got to put his pitch. He's got to put his tar. He's got to put nails. He's got to build the whole structure. He builds the whole entire house from material that already exists. And he thinks that in his mind that he built everything because he formed it. Now, when the man walks away from the structure, what happens to the structure? Nothing. It'll continue to exist because the things that were there that he used to build the house predate him. They were always there. Now, when God wants to create something, how does he do it? He wills every piece of material into existence. He builds and forms the house, he arranges it. If God walks away, what happens to the house? It ceases to exist. The house requires God's focus, attention, for it to be there. There is no nature. The function, purpose of nature, the world, the olam is ne'alam, is to hide God. Period. Hanukkah, celebration of the miracle, the break in nature. That reminding us that in this time of darkness, where it's so easy to think that, oh my God, people are getting depressed now, people are getting sad, we feel more lonely. It's been a hard couple of years, and I'm hearing it from everyone. I'm feeling tired, I'm not into it, I'm not myself, and this and that. But that's not because of anything unique about you or your past. It's because this is the time of the year where this is supposed to happen to us. Where as the light begins to be sucked out of the earth, this void that settles in, this darkness, the choshech that comes in, is designed to get you to ask the question, what should I be doing? What am I doing to inspire myself? The challenge is not just challenge, because God wants to challenge you. God wants you to run, so He puts hurdles in front of you to strengthen your muscles. And this is the time of the year where you either sink or swim. So you crawl or run. The challenge of the hardships that we're in right now, and all of them, all the unique ones you have, family, relationships, friends, is designed to help you to grow, because God loves you infinitely more than you could imagine. He loves you, and He wants you to have all the success in the world. He wants you to have all the happiness in the world. But He needs you to make an adjustment in the way you see yourself. There is no natural order of things. You think it's natural that your parents are the ones that raised you? There's nothing natural about our parents, raising us. As a matter of fact, it's a miracle that we survived. Right? It's a miracle that you and I are here having this conversation in this room right now. There's 1,000 things that could have happened, should have happened, that would have prevented you from getting here, preventing me from getting here. But here we are. God sets it up in a way where everything is so fine-tuned that it seems as if it's natural, but in reality it's all a miracle. And the question is, how are you bringing this idea into your lives? How do we get to walk with God everywhere we go?
I thank Hashem like every second I have. I thank Him for everything.
That's amazing.
While I walk here, I thanked Him for even coming to this. I'm not joking. That's how I live.
So that's a very deep level, but it's not just about thanking Him, it's about appreciating Him. There's a difference between saying todah, thank you.
You think,
yes, it's gratitude, it's a form of gratitude, but you need to see the godliness in it. It's more than just thanking Him. You need to see the miraculous emerge from that which is natural. That's our job. And the more that you and I could recognize that when you come home and you see sleeping kids, or you see friends, family, it shouldn't be there. We expect things to be there. We expect things to work the way they do. Go to my car, I turn my car, the engine turns on, and I drive. I sit in a plane and it flies. Why does it work that way? Who says that an engine should have the power to lift a plane and suspend us in midair? Why is that part of nature? Who says it works like that? Well, the scientists will tell you, based on the velocity, the friction in the air, it's going to fly. Who says? Miracle. No, it's nature. It happens all the time. This is science. Who says? I don't believe it's miraculous to see the bones coming out of the earth. Because for me, the miracle, the nature is all part of the same thing. Each one is expressing God. The only difference is that the miracle removes my free will. The miracle, when I live in that world of miracle, I no longer have a choice but to see God. When the Jewish people crossed the Yam Suf, it says that the lowest maidservant had a greater level of nevuah, of prophecy, than Yechezkel, greatest of Nevi'im. Right? Well, what did they see exactly? They said, Zeh keli ve'anvehu. That's our God. Let's go ahead and do something beautiful for Him. Right? How did they get that kind of clarity? They pointed. Zeh. Pointed to God. Now, if you live in that reality where you could point to God, what happens to you? Are you still a human being at that point? Or are you like an angel? What's the difference between you and a malach? The answer is there's not much, actually. They both have free will. The angel has free will, just like a human has free will. The difference is that an angel lives in a reality where God is constantly standing before them. And for us, that idea is something we have to constantly work on finding and seeing. Right? When we're lighting the Hanukkah candles, we should be reminded of the fact that who says oil should burn? It's a miracle. What's nature? Wow, what is nature? Who says there should be darkness and not light? It's a miracle. Come home, miracle. Breathing, seeing, miracle, miracle. Moving your hands, animated, being healthy, miracle. The more you're able to live in that kind of a reality, my friends, the more you're able to change your reality. I don't want nature to define me. Well, Rabbi, I can't do it. I do this all the time and I'm stuck. Nothing's changed. I don't believe that. I don't believe you tried hard enough. I met with a couple today, and one of the spouses said, I can't do this anymore. And I looked back at her and I said, you're lying. You don't want to do this anymore. I want you to say those words. And she couldn't say it. Because that means she's giving up and she doesn't want to believe that she's a quitter. So I said, then if you can't say it, then you don't believe it, then don't say that you can't do it anymore. Say that you don't want to do it anymore. That's fine if you don't want to do it. But there's no such thing as it's impossible. The only limitations that are standing before us is ourselves. So therefore the avodah, the work of living in a world of nature and miracle and seeing them being symbiotic and one, is the process that allows us to escape the world of nature. All nature does is create a fictitious reality that gives you the security of thinking that everything's going to be exactly the same, when in fact it could change instantaneously tomorrow, in a second, in a flip of a second. And the only thing that is constant is God, but it's hard to see Him, feel Him. But He's there. Now, let's do the thought experiment. Okay, I want you for a moment, if you may have done this before with me, I want you for a moment to create a fictitious character in your mind's eye. Like, create a fictitious character in your mind's eye. I want you to create a person. I don't care, boy, girl, think of a person. You're creating a new person, a new character. You're writing the person. Give them hair, eye color, skin, height, weight, body type. Clothe them, give them a house to live in. Imagine them sitting on a couch for a minute. Imagine them walking around, going to the kitchen, taking out a soda. Okay, animate them. Give them a name for a minute. Name them whatever you want. Okay, give that person a name. Okay, now I want you to open your eyes for a second. Okay, was that person you created real?
No.
Well, that's not. Did you do the exercise? For the moment.
It was an imaginary person.
But it was real in your mind.
Yeah.
Right? Now, what happened to that character that you created the second you stopped thinking about it?
It disappeared.
It's gone.
My eyes was gone.
Or it's gone, right? It disappeared. This doesn't exist anymore.
Was I supposed to close it?
I mean, if it was easier, if you would have saw it, it would become more real if you closed your eyes. Ready? The reason why you and I are here right now is because God is thinking about you. And that's why you're being animated right now.
God just did what we just did with our eyes.
Correct. God is closing His eyes and He's thinking about you. And that's why you're here right now. Right? You're here right now because God is thinking about you. And the second He stops thinking about us, the whole entire thing ceases to exist. There's a terrible psychological game you can play with your kids and say to them, how do you know that that you weren't just created with all of your thoughts? And that everything about your past is really just a story that was written in your head. How do we know that we're not alive for 1 minute, like this split second, and that everything that we see around is just recreated to give us this experience, ki'ilu, everything happened before us, but really everything is brand new right now?
It was a movie like this, I think.
Oh, you did?
It was a movie, I can't remember. You have to see it.
With Schwarzenegger.
So check
But I think that we believe that on some level, because at every moment is a new moment. And every second that you and I experience is a new second, a new moment. Now, why is that so beautifully profound? It's so beautifully profound, I believe, because the past doesn't define who you are. But every minute, every moment is a new moment. And that means every moment has infinite potential. And the only thing holding you back from expressing that potential is yourself. You've created limitations for yourself, but you're infinite because you're part of the divine. How do I know? Because you're here. You're here, and God is thinking about you, and He wants you to have everything that the world has to offer. But He creates a reality with the struggle and the pain and the uncertainty and the confusion because He loves you. What would happen if God gave you everything and there'd be no struggle? He would have just created a bunch of charity cases who are unable to fend for themselves, unable to grow and think and be lost. So He creates that space of uncertainty, of doubt, of confusion, to ne'elam, to hide Himself in the world so that you can be the best version of you. So let's close the conversation. Nature versus miracle. You could argue, for the sake of conversation, that nature is something that happens frequently, but really at its core, we can't explain it, it shouldn't be there, and therefore it too is a miracle. And a miracle is something that happens outside of nature, it's outside of the frequency of things. And the difference is that nature, because it's so quietly happening consistently over and over again, conceals God. And when you see a miracle, it expresses God, because it's a break from that consistent pattern of things that are happening over and over again. What's our lesson, our goal, is to live in a reality where we see them both as being an expression of godliness. That you could actually use the physical world where God is hiding behind the mask of nature and reveal Him in that world so you can live a life of truth, of greatness, and excellence. Because that's why everything around us is designed. The whole world is like a womb for us. And just like a baby in its mother's womb lived there for about 9 to 10 months, right? That world dies. That world ceases to exist. Similarly, this world is a womb for us. And we think that, well, this is it. And the resting place is our resting place. But I don't believe that. I believe that just like the womb was a transitionary stage for the fetus to become a child, the world itself is a transitionary state for a human being to become a soul. Right? That's what this world is about. There is no death. Energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be formed into something new, into new kind of matter. And if your soul is a soul with energy, we believe that there's energy in the body. Energy is the soul itself. And therefore it can never be destroyed. It's eternal. And the only question is, what are you going to look like in your next iteration? I believe that the next iteration is a neshama. The neshama has to wait for the body to reemerge from the earth. At that point, it's sucked back into the world. And the only difference in this new world called Olam Haba is a world where the body and soul are tethered together in a way where they recognize that every moment is miraculous. They recognize that everything they have is miraculous, and everything they do is a reflection of godliness. That's what we're aiming for. That is the world that you and I want for our children, our grandchildren. We say, Bayom hahu yeh echad ushmo echad, that wish, that dream of the world recognizing that everything is God, everything is unity. There is no separateness. There's only this oneness that binds everything together. We're all bound together. We're all responsible for each other. All of that is what you and I want. That is the world of greatness. That is a world of us living our greatest expression, our greatest ability. That's what we want. So why does God create nature and miracle? So you can be you. So God creates this world with nature so that you can be you. Because without it, you can never have an identity. You'd be forced to live in God's reality and not create your own reality. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's topic. I hope that it inspires you to look out at the world a little bit differently, and that you're able to internalize this notion that every moment is a moment that is miraculous. Every moment that we have is beautiful. We should cherish it. We shouldn't squander it, not waste it. Don't waste your time being sad and depressed. Don't waste your time thinking about the things that you don't have. Just use that lacking as a stimulant, as something to inspire you to achieve something more, because it's only here that we could express our truest identity. Thank you so much.